if you've got any fears or anything, now's the time to let go of them. Don't put any pressure on yourself to say, how could I not have known this? This is really obvious. Forget all of that. They're just very clever and they've had 2,000 years of practice and you've had however many years of being conditioned. Yeah. What we've done now, we've just removed the conditioning veil. Yeah. And you look at it and you go, oh my God, how can I absorb all of this? A sponge doesn't absorb all the water at once. It takes in what it can, one bit at a time. There will be some information, despite the fact you haven't made notes or whatever, that will stick in your mind from today without you having to do any more research. We've got an avenue for more information for you, which is the People's Court of Terra Australis.org. On that, you can get access to the affidavit. If you haven't done an affidavit, I suggest you do it. It takes about an hour to do the affidavit. It's simple. Put in your name and it puts it all the way through the document. Put in the next name, it puts it all in the document. It's just cut and paste editing that goes through. It's not tough. It just takes time. At this stage, if you don't understand something in the document, don't worry about it. Just make a note and say, I need some clarity on what paragraph 27 means. Fill it out, get it going. Because people delay. They get stuck on 22 and they don't do anything for 2 weeks until they find out what it means. And then they'll get stuck on 27 and they go, oh, is that all it was? Okay. Get the affidavit done and then get it served as quick as you can. Because if you were going to walk through a minefield, would you want a map of where all the mines are? If you were going to walk a tightrope, the first thing that you would set up would be a safety net. So just in case I fall, I want the safety net. That's what this is. This is your protection from their system. It doesn't mean like a bank robber or whatever, or that they're not going to break into your house and they're not going to do it. They're still going to do all of that stuff. But this is your recourse. This is your accountability to say, you know what? You're accountable now. We're holding judges accountable. Not just magistrates, not just police. We're holding the registrar of the court accountable. We're holding the clerk of the court accountable. So, well, how can that happen? Because the registrar knew that he was registering a fraudulent claim. The clerk of the courts knew that he was calling a fraudulent claim. The magistrate knew that he was acting on a fraudulent claim and that he had no authority to hear the matter. And you take it up. And the judge knew all of that as well. Okay? We're exposing the frauds all the way through. You guys don't have to do that work. We're doing it for you. We're just giving you the simple paperwork to say, you know what? Don't get into the boxing ring with them. You don't have to. We're going to give you the paperwork to throw into the boxing ring so they fight amongst themselves. They're all going to try and blame somebody else. The magistrate, he's going to try and blame the police prosecutor or the registrar. Or the judge is going to try and blame the magistrate. They're all going to try and find a way that once they are exposed, they're going to put the blame on somebody else. You don't have to do that work. We're doing it for you. Some of you might say, I'm all over this. How can I become like you, Alex? How can I be an attorney, in fact, for somebody else? Come here. I want to show you. We'll give you the paperwork. It's not hard. It's not hard. Just because it's new and you haven't done it before doesn't mean it's difficult. It's actually really simple. So don't be fearful of any of that side of it. We also have a Zoom call every Thursday night, 7:30 Queensland time, which you can get the address from here, where we answer people's questions. We direct them to the manual. So you can say, oh look, I've been to the manual and I couldn't find anything about X, Y and Z. Great, that's something new. Let's create a document for you. We're creating new documents all the time because of the demand of the circumstances of people. We've got a document called a Notice of Request for Better and Further Particulars, which is our opening document to expose the fraud. We're now modifying that into one that we give to the police, one that we give to courts, one we give to somebody else. So we're expanding it because of the demand of people like yourself and your circumstances. So we can either say, we've got exactly the document for you to give, you don't have to do it, or give us a couple of days and we'll tweak it for you, for your circumstances. We're also doing new processes all the time. Paul's partner Grace and Therese, they're having issues to do with the immigration, trying to throw them out of the country. And I said, just leave it with me and I'll have a little think about it. We're now going to fire it back at the Australian government, saying that they have been trading in slavery because they took money for them coming out as a fiction and for child trafficking. So we're going to throw it back on them. Because that's what they're doing. That is what they're doing. So we're calling them on it. So they'll finish up going, just let them stay in the country. Because we have no authority over them anyway, because they are living beings.
To the value of $16,000 a year for child trafficking. For Teresa stay here under a student visa, $16,000 a year.
It's extortion. But they can do it because they're dealing with a fiction. And they control the fictions. It's all trade and commerce.
Do all governments do this, like American
Absolutely.
and European? Like everyone's
everywhere.
got the same straw man sort of set up?
Yeah. Well, for hundreds of years, for thousands of years, they have been infiltrating and infiltrating and infiltrating to get their people in to all of these organisations. Daniel Andrews didn't become president, prime minister. What is he?
He's
Premier. He didn't get that. Palaszczuk and what's the other one that went from New South Wales?
That's the new...
Think about it. This is a male-driven, cutthroat business politics. How did those women get to the top? Without some men conspiring to take them down.
School.
Yes, they went to Klaus Schwab school. They've been infiltrating for decades and decades and decades. Yes, we are a David and Goliath organisation, but it's not you, David, fighting one Goliath. It's you fighting a whole team of Goliaths. But guess who won? Because he was smart. Instead of trying to take him down, he said, I'm going to hit him where his weakness is. And he aimed for the weakness and he hit the weakness. We're just helping you to see where the weaknesses are and what stones to throw. Okay, we've got the stones, we know where the weaknesses are. We'll teach you how to throw it. And here's how you throw it. You put it in an envelope and you send it to them.
Registered mail?
Sometimes. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't have to do it.
How do you help people when you bring these topics up and then they go, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist?
Thank you very much.
I'm 6 months ahead of you.
The only thing I would say is I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm a conspiracy factist. And the conspiracy is not coming from me, it's coming from the very government that you want to support. So I'm more than happy for you, you can call me whatever you like, but if what I'm saying is not helping you, then maybe you need to go so that everybody else can be a fellow conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, I suppose it's more trying to help other people that maybe...
No, this is something you all have to get into your heads. Do not waste your time trying to convert or do anything. Lead by example and just say, oh, you probably wouldn't understand it anyway, and just go off. And they go, oh, but you know, this is happening. I say, yeah, I know that's happening and I know how to deal with it. Well, how do you deal with it? Oh, sorry, that would mean you'd have to become a conspiracy theorist. Okay? You plant the seed and walk away.
What's the definition of conspiracy theorist? What's the definition of conspiracy theorist?
I don't know.
Someone who challenges.
Well, it's not really conspiracy.
It's two or more people with the same thought,
Thinking.
same mindset.
There you go.
Two or more. Well, I can tell you, there are hundreds and hundreds of people waking up every day. Okay, I want it to get to a point where it's not just me talking, but it's 100 people talking to families and communities saying, you know what, you can keep living in fear if you want, or you can say enough's enough. Because look around the room, you're not fighting this battle on your own.
No.
If you think you are, you're delusional.
Yeah.
But you've got to be strong. You've got to be strong. You've got to do your part in it. And your part is to stand up for you and your family, not for everybody else's family. For you and your family. Because imagine what happens if instead of them getting hit by one document from me, they get hit at the same time by 100, 1,000 documents from all these people, which clogs up their system. And each time that happens, you're making them accountable to the tune of $50,000.
And you can do this for your kids as well.
Absolutely. If I was to paraphrase something, I can do it for me. I am doing it for my kids. That's my motivation. I'm not doing this for me. I'm actually doing it for them and for other people's kids. Even people who don't believe any of this mumbo jumbo, I'm doing it for their kids. Because it's about the future. It's not about fixing the past. The past is going to crumble and collapse. We all know that. But if we don't lay the foundation for the future we want, what future are we going to have? So we've got to start to do it. All right, now I'm sure you've got lots of other questions, so let's fly into other questions and see what other information we can help you with.
Have you talked with anyone about your children, like what you do if we can send an affidavit for ourselves? What about for our younger children who aren't 18 or...
Yep, they are automatically covered under your affidavit because they are your property.
So from 18 up, they have to do their own then?
They can, but see, they have to step forward and make that claim.
Okay.
Otherwise, they would stay under your care. So if you have an intellectually disabled child and they're 35, they're still under your affidavit all the way through. That's the beauty of the affidavit. It doesn't say, oh, well, they're on their own now.
Yep.
But they can reinforce that at any time they become 21 to say, nope, I'm stepping beyond this in my own right. Here's the affidavit of my parents which proves it.
So it's 21, is that the date? Is that the age they have to do it from if they want to go out on their own?
21.
Yeah.
So do your children have to be named in your affidavit? Or?
Yes. But you can also have in your affidavit or any further coming offspring.
Okay.
So it covers them that way, and that's already in there. So it does the name ones, and if you decide you're going to have another one, and so it's already covered under that. No, you don't. You can still practice though. The other thing too is about your affidavit. If you do have another kid, you can just send an amendment to an addition, an addendum, and you can just add the name in under paragraph 127 is now to read da 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 da. It's that easy to do.
So I'm a single parent, 20-year-old and 17-year-old. Do I have to speak to their father about putting my children in an affidavit?
Okay, I'm going to pick you up on words because words are important.
Yep.
Do you have to do that? You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Would it be wise to? That's the terminology. Would it be wise to speak to their father? Yes. To inform him of what's going on. And if he's against it all, you say, well, have you got house insurance? Yeah. Why? Oh, in case something goes wrong. You got car insurance? Yeah. Why? In case something goes wrong. That's why I'm doing this. In case something goes wrong, I'm protecting them. If you want to similarly protect them, that would be great. It's got nothing to do with the status between you and I. But if you don't want to do it, understand I'm protecting them anyway. So you do it equitably, you do it nicely, but you put him in a position where he says, well, of course I want to protect my kids. Then help, then do one as well. Yep.
So how many of these affidavits have been filed, and has there been no comeback at all? Nobody's...
When I did my first one was literally a beginner's one. I think it had 68 points or something in it. And I just did it sort of to get the ball rolling. It's now got 290 something points in it. I got a response back from the Solicitor's Office of the Attorney General. What? It was 3 lines. First 2 lines, we've received your correspondence. Second line, I can't remember what it was. Third line, we do not consider your documents to be of legal status. I went, this is the Solicitor of the Attorney General saying that affidavits have no legal status. How does that affect their whole legal system?
And then you got excited and celebrated.
And she got a 27-page letter back which ripped her into shreds. And I got no response from that. Most other people will get a letter back from birth, deaths and marriages saying this has nothing to do with us. Oh, isn't that beautiful? They're telling you that it's nothing to do with them. But they haven't responded. The only way they can respond is with an affidavit. Mere denials do not constitute a response. So no one has challenged the affidavit. No one. And how many have been filed? Hundreds. Hundreds of them.
I'd say thousands by the look at your book of deeds.
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, I don't keep up on that because the guys, the team looks after that. I'm just a resource, and I'm helping them do what they do. So anything to do with the manuals and all of that, I said, you've got to talk to the team because, you know. But yeah, if there's thousands, then there's thousands. Yeah. We regularly have 150 people on a Thursday night asking questions and giving feedback, and we give them update on some of the projects that are running. But we're always there to assist. There's no question that we won't tackle.
What are you advising people to do about these directors' IDs that we're all supposed to sign up for?
Paul, have you got a copy of yours there?
Yeah, I have actually.
You throw it back on them. You ask them for proof of who they are. Paul's got a copy of the one that we just drafted recently.
So people are still signing them, but
You don't do anything the government tells you to do until they can prove that they've got authority over you.
Oh.
So what you do in terms of what the
Can
ID...
you do that before the affidavit or not?
Yeah. But remember, there are certain things that you need a safety net for. If you've got your affidavit in process of going, they still have to deal with this letter. And this letter says, look, there's all these scams going on. I got a letter from this company that has no record anywhere on the net and ATSIC and whatever. I'm prepared to consider the offer. Just see, they can't take action against you if the matter's in dispute and you've done conditional acceptance. So you say, if you can provide me with these documents, and we list them, then I will consider what you're doing. But Paul, the living man Paul, only acts as the director of that company on some occasions. He is not the director. So if they want to give an ID to the director, they're more than welcome to do that, but it doesn't apply to him, the living man. That's one of the things we're talking about in terms of the conditions. You make it very, very clear. If you want to give that fiction, that named director, a number, you can do that, but it does not apply to the living man. It's called conditional acceptance. Does that help you?
Gives me a bit of an idea. I'll have more questions by tomorrow. So.
Well, I hope you do. Yeah. I hope you all do. I hope you all go home and you talk to others who've been here today and your own friends as well, and you've got streams of questions coming out of you. Write them down. I don't care how stupid or you think they are. I really don't care. Any single question you have, write it down. Come and see us on the Thursday night. Type them in and we'll deal with it, and we'll direct you exactly to the answers and the things that you need.
Because it'll come up there, they'll realise it. Did you show, within the last talk, you showed how to write their address?
Oh yes, yeah.
On a letter.
Cool. Everything. There's certain ways in which you've been tricked into accepting their system. So I'm going to start on one side of the page. How do we address a letter? Who wants to start me? What's the first one? Well, let's say we know who it is. Give me a name. Who's some? John Smith.
Yeah.
Okay, so how am I going to write it? Okay. Do I put anything? That's how I start the letter. But what about
Address?
up here? Who's the letter addressed to?
John Smith.
Okay. You tell me if I do anything wrong here. John Smith.
That's
Whatever
right.
the address is.
Care of.
His title.
Supposed to be capital letters.
Oh, the title should come first, shouldn't it?
Where does it reside?
Well, you tell me.
No,
You're the ones who write it.
if it's a manager or a...
Manager.
Oh, whatever.
Manager of Smith's Biscuits. I want to
Definitely
put
needs
third.
a date on it.
Okay, a date. We need a date over here. What do I put there?
Today.
20th.
20th.
Or the 20th.
20th of 11th. We're in November, so we'll write it as November. Because remember, 20th of the 10th, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean it. They're just numbers. 20 November 2022. Alright, so we'll put the date up there. It's John Smith, Manager Smith's Biscuits. We do the address. Somebody give me the address.
51 Slade Street.
36 Stone Street. Where is it? Epping. 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 What else do we put in?
Victoria.
Victoria.
I just
And the postcode.
Oh, I don't know what the
423.
423. Okay.
Zero.
And down here we go. Dear John. Anyone want to start pointing out what might be not good about that? Lowercase.
John Family
Who's John Smith? Have you met him?
Yeah.
Of the
The
families.
living John Smith.
Okay. John Smith.
There's a
That's
few
his
of them.
surname.
You need a middle name.
Surname. So you're writing a letter to a fiction. Do you know many fictions that can reply? No. So, I'm going to start over here. What's wrong about 20th November 2022? It's going to be a simple question, but it's...
Just hanging there.
Who invented the calendar?
Julian calendar, Julian calendar.
Julian calendar. So who created that?
Julius Caesar.
Yeah. And he was part of Romans, which traces itself back to the Vatican. Okay. They imposed their calendar. They control time. They control this time because they created it. Do you know up until about 30 years ago, China had a totally different calendar?
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, they had a totally different calendar. Mayans had a different calendar.
We're meant to have actually had 13 months, aren't we?
Yeah.
In Thailand,
They brought it back to 12.
Yeah.
And now they gave us a
The
leap
13 moon calendar was Roman, and the Romans actually adopted the Egyptian calendar when Caesar met Cleopatra. But that's another story. So how do I address that problem? Always date known as in quotes. So when am I writing it? The date known as this. By me putting quote marks around it, that protects me from being under their calendar system. According to you guys, it's the date known as this. I don't acknowledge that. I don't come under your system. So that's the first thing we do. What about old capital letter or fictional entity here? John Smith. Think about what we've just done here.
No.
The living man known as, in quote marks, however he writes it. If he puts it in capitals, we put it in capitals. John Smith. So we have...
Is it bad putting capitals?
So this is the other guy.
This is it. It's whatever he sent you a letter and started off as John Smith. Now you don't know who he is. So if you don't have these quote marks in here, what have you just done?
You know him?
That you acknowledge that that's who he is.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
But we don't know that. We couldn't swear on oath we know who John Smith is if he walked in the room. So man known as John Smith. What about this? Manager. Oh,
No, no.
what's John Smith doing?
acting as.
Acting as. He's acting as an agent of the company. Acting as, quotes, manager, whatever he calls himself. Right. What about Smith's Biscuits?
Supposedly
Company name.
Trading is.
Whatever he puts it as, we put it in quote marks because we haven't got an ABN record. We don't know who he works for. Smith Biscuits, I'm going to put it in capitals, quotes, and I just happen to find ABN. Now if he's put a letter that doesn't have the ABN, I put ABN not supplied. Because any document that doesn't have the ABN has no legal status. Simple. No ABN, no legal status. Means you don't have to take any notice of it whatsoever. If it does have an ABN, we list it, whatever it is. 36 Sloane Street. Well, we can find 36 Sloane Street. Do you know how? Yeah. Well, we can. It's a map. But we could walk out here and we could see a sign that says Sloane Street, and we could walk around and we could find 36. Okay, so we can leave that as it is, because that's what he claims is his address. Can we do the same for Epping?
No.
No. There's no sign on that blade out of grass there that says this blade of grass is Epping or something. So Epping is a fiction. Town, which is short for township, in single quotes, town known as, double quotes, Epping. Yeah? And here's the next thing. We had all that other stuff, Victoria and all that, but we're not going to put that in yet. We're going to put, where's this land?
Oh, Wagyu.
Victoria's. Oh.
Of the Wiradjuri tribe.
Terra Australis.
There. Land known as Terra Australis. Why is that important? Why is Terra Australis important?
Because it includes other little islands in.
Terra Australis is important because it's what this land was known as before the white man came here. Okay, so what we're doing is we're predating any of their claims on this land. As far as I'm concerned, this land is Terra Australis, or whatever the First Nations people want to call this part of it. Okay, so what comes after that, Terra Australis? This. We have open double quotes, square bracket, Victoria, close square bracket, close quotes, open quotes, square bracket, postcode, close square brackets, close quote. Why have I done that? Does anyone know what the four corner rule is? Doesn't apply. If I don't, the four corner rule says anything that's in a box is not part of the document. When you get a speeding fine or a something fine or anything like that, it's in a box. Everything's in boxes.
I also remember you saying that about the birth certificates before.
Birth certificate, box, child information, box. All of those boxes, what's inside them is not part of the document. It's as if you white liquid paper the whole lot out. You don't have to take any notice of it. So why have I put Victoria in with these square brackets here? Quite simply, if I don't put them in, what have I just accepted and acknowledged?
Victoria.
That the state of Victoria is real. And it's not, it's a fiction that has borders. When all these people were saying, oh, they won't let you cross the border from Victoria to New South Wales. Show me the border. Where's the border? There's no border. Borders only exist on paper. There is no border. So they're talking about you can't step from this part of the map to that part of the map. It's got nothing to do with the land. Same with a postcode. Postcode puts it under military jurisdiction. It's a post, a military post code. So by me putting the square brackets around it, I'm saying, no, I don't consent to post codes. This is only put there for the benefit of whoever's sending it, but I don't consent to it. That's how you address any letter. If you need to address it to another person, and these are persons, so you've gone to, get that to, the living man known as John Smith, and you do the whole process all over again. You then don't have to say, Dear John. You've already said who it's to. The next thing you do is notice to principal, forget my writing, is notice to agent, and under that notice to agent is notice to principal. Which means if I'm sending this to living man John Smith and he's acting as the manager of Smith's Biscuits, if this instrument is hand delivered to the man who cleans the toilets, it's been done to him. I can serve this to anyone in that organisation, it's him. Right? So notice to principal is notice to agent, notice to agent is notice to principal. Depending on the document, you might put under it self-executing contract. Okay? Self-executing contract, because you might include in this a notice of legal liability, which basically says, if you don't act on this, it's a contract. By your non-action, you've contracted. How can we do that? That's not fair. That's what they do to you all the time.
Whose law is this?
Their law.
So you're writing in their law.
Why am I writing it in their law, protecting myself that I'm not under their law?
Yeah.
Who's the document going to?
So do they write it like this?
No. Because they're trying to trap you. If they send a letter to you, they'll say to, and they'll use the fiction name. Even when you instruct them not to, they're still going to do that. We write because we're saying, make it very clear, I'm not in your system. Right? I'm not in your system. I'm not in your system, but I'm writing to you as the living man in that system. You can't hide behind the fiction name, because I'm going to make you personally accountable, not the manager, because the manager is a fiction. I can't make any claim against a fiction. Contracts can only exist between living men or women, or a fiction and a fiction. There can be no contract between a living woman and a fiction. This is how the banks defraud you. You think you're making a contract as a living man or woman with the bank. They create personage so that they can make a contract between the two. This is all the fraud that we're going to show you how to uncover. So this is how I send it to them. Now when I sign off, at the end, I'm going to rub this out. Is that okay? Yeah. Here's the simple thing. The left-hand side of the page is the debtor. That's why you're always here on this side of the page. You're the debtor. If they send a letter to you, they always sign on this side of the page, which is the creditor side of the page. So when you send a letter to them, you make it clear to them, you're the debtor, mate. You're on that side. And on this side of the page, I write, without prejudice, forget this sincerely crap and faithfully and all that stuff. I've seen people do that. I said, oh really? You want to be faithful with somebody who's treating you like crap and screwing you blind? Oh, well, you know, everyone signs, you know, faithfully. Or maybe it should be sincerely. Well, if you're writing sincerely, that means that the content's not sincerely, because you're having to write it. So you write it businesslike, without prejudice. What else do I put in there? All rights reserved. Okay, all rights reserved, and then after that, I write quotes, non-hyphen assumpsit. That's written in Latin, and I put the quote marks around it because it's another language. So what I'm saying is to them, I've got no prejudices on you. Let's wait and see where we're at. I'm reserving all of my rights, and don't make any assumptions about this. Okay? No assumptions, because they work on presumptions of law. And then under that, I put the living name as it is on my contract, on my affidavit. Single quote, Mary Jane, comma, of the family Jones. Okay? The content of your letters, you write as if it's a legal document. So none of this, dear John. 1. In reference to your such and such, comma, and 2, whatever you want to say, and 3, and. Why am I putting comma and after each sentence? Yeah. They're all linked. What's more important about that is if I put a full stop here, my letter stops there.
Yeah.
Oh, full stop, can't say back.
No backsies on a full stop.
That's where it came from.
Can't you use crystal?
Comma and, which means they must continue reading
Reading it.
the whole thing. Do not get caught up with putting 2, 3, 4 ideas into one sentence. If your sentence can be broken up with an and, comma,
Just
and.
go back to primary school when you write it.
When you're told not to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just getting told off by my kids now already for trying to punctuate there.
We never put full stops in, and now we're told, now we're not told.
When you structure it like this, you can refer to a particular point, legal letter. In reference to paragraph 2, da 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 da. In reference to paragraph 3, da da. If I don't have any numbers here, how am I going to reference it all? It's a dog's breakfast. This tells them, I'm onto your game, I'm setting you up here, if you want to take this on, good luck. Okay? Good luck.
Take one next step further and number all your lines too.
Yeah, you can do that, which is what they do in evidence. They number all the lines. So that's how you address a document. Never send an email as the text. Why not?
They can change it. And it's not paper.
It's not paper. It has to be printed out. And they could always say they didn't receive it or do whatever. You create this as a document and you send it as an attachment. Please refer to attached instrument. That's what we call them, instruments. What's an instrument?
Piece of evidence.
An instrument is something that does something. A document doesn't necessarily do anything. So you don't send documents, you send instruments because there's a consequence that comes with them. So just get used to talking about instruments rather than documents or letters or anything like that. All right, is that clear?
Yep.
Beautiful. Now, let's go a step further. Let's say we've done our whole document here. Needs a title. What are we going to call it? So we've got here, this is the one to John Smith. We've done all that down here, but what's the title?
Like a business name or something? Or?
everything. Notice of. We're putting them on notice. Notice of objection. Notice of request for better and further particulars. Notice of whatever it is, it's a notice. Because notice is understanding. If I don't put a title here, what's it about?
Nothing.
Nothing. There's no call to action. There's no call for them to have to respond. Right? Notice of something. This is a lovely one you'll all get to enjoy. Notice of legal liability. What you're doing is you put them on notice that they're going to be held accountable legally. You might have another title here, and you might further on down the letter put another paragraph in with a title of notice of legal liability. All right, when you get a let's get a speeding notice or something like that. What's here? Emblem, trademark, something. What are you going to put there?
Your own seal.
Your own seal? Maybe. What's better than a seal?
Flag.
A flag. Yes. Beautiful flag here. And here's why. When we read, how do we read? Like Chinese up and down? Or how do we write? We read left to right, top to bottom. Everything that follows in this document comes under that flag. Comes under that jurisdiction. Create your own flag and get used to sticking it in the top left-hand corner.
So why a flag and not an emblem or a seal? Or...
Because a seal seals the contents. If I put the seal here, all I've done is sealed the blank space before it. The seal comes here at the end.
Okay.
So you make up a flag of your own. Is that
Yep.
what you're saying?
Takes about 5 minutes. If you don't know how to do it, send me what you want and I'll whip it up for you in 5 minutes. It's that simple.
And a flag for each individual, or can you do it as like
a family.
family name, or how do you do it?
You can do whatever you want. It's your kingdom.
Well, what if I don't want my brother's flag but he wants mine?
You do exactly what they do. You make some slight variation in it. Let's say you want a similar flag, but you want something different on your flag to his. You do something, you just do a little, I'm going to do a little R in the bottom corner.
And it can't be a tractor.
I can. But it's got to be a deer tractor.
Even better.
Or an expensive one.
My flag is the Eureka flag with my coat of arms in the middle, and across the top of it in Latin I have a fiat ruit. I can't even remember what's on it now. It says something which basically translates as justice is in heaven. And the fact that I've got it there in Latin is me doing this to them. Right? It's me saying, you have no jurisdiction over me. I am sovereign. Please look it up and go, yes, I'm not a sovereign being.
So what is that, sovereign?
Sovereign.
A-N?
S-U-V'-E-R-A-N. Sovereign.
So the sovereign, that's like part of the Queen, King and Queen, isn't it?
It's not the ultimate ruler. A sovereign could be the king, the queen, the prince.
Yeah.
They could call themselves sovereign. But you are sovereign. You are the ultimate ruler of the kingdom.
Right.
Okay. So have your own flag. Put it there. Your seal, which you can get for about $29 from Dial a Stamp online. Go to Dial a Stamp online and you can get a seal. They're about 40 centimetres wide. You can use your coat of arms or whatever you want in the middle. You can put whatever you want around the outside. I have around the bottom of mine, Lord Trevor John. Because I bought a square foot of land in Scotland. And because I own land in Scotland, as a landowner, I'm entitled to be called a laird, a lord. You can do the same thing, ladies. If you want to be lady, you can buy land in Scotland. I think that's about $50 or something like that.
These days we could probably call ourselves lords for doing that as well.
Yeah, you
You
could.
could. You want to be careful though about changing gender. Because-
Change it back again.
Well, now see, this is what all this stuff about transgenderism and everything is getting people to admit they're not a man, not a woman.
Yeah, okay. Confused.
Suddenly, they have no rights. That's what transgenderism is about, is that you have no rights because you are not a man, not a woman.
So how can you own your square foot if you can't own land?
It's a claim of ownership.
So you claimed it,
Yeah, I paid for it. I have a claim of ownership of that. They've agreed to it.
right?
But more importantly, I purchased a title.
Okay.
Do you have to look after that square foot?
No, they plant stuff in and do it. It's all fantastic. Have a look it up. It's called establishing titles or something like that. If you want to, you're right.
Have you got this all in a big document printed out so we just do all these steps?
Oh, you just need to put a drill in my head and just siphon it out. It's all there. You just got to find it on the website. So you have a seal. You can also put a flag down here. Now, if you want to, depending on where you're going, you can also create a seal as the notary of your kingdom. And that one's usually in red, and so you can stamp it there as a notary and put your autograph whenever it. You can also put stamps up here. We leave space for a stamp from the People's Court of Terra Australis. You send a document, they will stamp it saying, we have a record of your document in our court. So, if someone wants to challenge this, you can bring forward somebody from the People's Court and say, yes, we have that document, that's our stamp, it's recorded in our court. It's a court of record. This is what they do, a court of record. They want people to think that they're the only court of record, but they're not. So you can put another stamp here. The other thing you can do is you can buy a postage stamp. Now some people use a $1.10 one, and I go, please. I'm not a miser, but 5-cent stamp. It's legal under theirs. It's their military post. You draw a line through it, and you write your name on it with the date. What you have just done is cancelled their jurisdiction.
So full date though, or like would you have to go like 20 minutes?
You could use a bridge date. The thing that matters most is the line through it and your name. You can use shorthand. You can use shorthand.
So you
Because
can
it's your
use your
document.
initials. You don't just have to be your full signature.
Use your living woman name that is on your affidavit. Okay. So you do it through that. So you can put that through there. And this is how you start to construct your documents.
Put that on the document, not the envelope.
On the document itself.
Yeah, this is right. And on the envelope, they just put
On the envelope, you'll use the address that you've written before.
Just a question on that. So when I have to sign things, I'll sign it to Fiona R. Muller. Fiona Ruth Muller is my full name. So should I now be, if I've on my affidavit signed Fiona Ruth Muller all the way, change my signature?
Just go Fiona Ruth.
Get rid of Muller.
Who's Muller?
Fiona Ruth.
Just Fiona Ruth.
Yeah.
And then just...
The Muller is a thing of the past. The Muller is the thing that will tie you into the fiction every single time. Now, part of this is that you create your own soul name. Now, your parents may have named your physical body, but you get a chance to name your soul. What resonates with you? What resonates with me, my soul, is Alex. So when people are talking to Alex, they're talking to my higher consciousness. They're not talking to the physical shell that was named by my mother. Okay, sometimes people get confused, say, so are you Trevor or are you Alex? I said, no, that name is the name that was given to me by my mother. If anybody uses the name Trevor, I feel like I'm in trouble.
You probably are.
Feed. I'll just go feed.
Yeah. Now here's the other thing. What size paper? Yeah, A4. Guess who owns A4?
The Vatican.
Copyrighted. A4. If you send something on A4, you're putting it on their paper.
It's called legal, isn't it?
be called legal paper.
You cut it a bit smaller?
Yeah, what the?
Cut it in half.
You can do it any size you want. I actually take A3 paper and I get it cut down to foolscap size, okay, which is thinner but longer. And I can tell you, they hate getting foolscap paper.
Is that why they call it foolscap?
Because it doesn't fit in any of their folders and it stuffs them up, you know.
And that's what it's all about. Pissing them off.
Yeah, it's about pissing them off. Then here's the next thing. What colour? What colour is all my printing in?
Black and white.
Yellow and white paper.
Yellow and white, black, purple,
Red.
all of mine is in purple.
The paper is?
No,
Because
it's
it's royal.
white paper,
White paper.
purple ink. Because guess what the colour of the king is?
Purple.
It's purple. What's black? Death. Anything that's in black is the realm of the dead.
So when we have to sign with black pen only,
This is the trick. This is where they trap you. They give you a document. They say, fill out in black or blue in capital letters only.
Yeah, block letters.
And people just blindly do it. Well, what you're doing is you are just convincing them and consenting that you are the fiction and you're dead and you have no rights.
So can you just write in lower case and in purple?
Purple, yeah.
I never fill out anyone else's form. I make my own letter. It might have all the same words on it, but there's no boxes, there's no any of that.
You write
It's
outside
mine.
the box?
You write outside the box. Or you cross out all the relative words. Much easier to just copy their document, take all the boxes and all that stuff and change the words. Where it says name, no, I don't have a name. What I have is an appellation.
So in your own letter, would you do lowercase?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless I'm quoting them. If they've sent something to me in capital letters and I want to refer to it, I refer to it in quotation marks. Because it's not my word, it's their word. Okay, so my letter's in purple, I've got all my bits and pieces, and I get to the end and I'm signing off as, you know, Trevor John, or when I'm sending a document to them, this is how I autograph. I don't signature, autograph. I sign my sole name in purple. I then pick up a red name, red pen, and I put my living man name in red through that. And I date it. I then pick up my seal, and I put my seal over the top of that. I then pick up my notary seal. I put my notary seal over the top of that. And just for the icing on the cake, I've got a red ink pad, and I put my thumbprint on there.
What do you do for fun? The spare time, like seriously.
Wow, very good.
go around and make it
Can you imagine what happens when they get this document?
Yeah.
What the hell is this? Okay? It's my kingdom. I'm asserting my authority over them. And part of the notice of legal liability is all correspondence must be addressed to, and I quote it, the living man, and I give the whole thing with all the address properly. And then under that, any correspondence that is sent to anyone other than this, exactly as written, will incur a $10,000 per A4 page processing fee. And your sending of any such correspondence will be taken as your agreement to those terms. So then when they write back, "Dear Mr. Alexander," guess what they get?
The bill.
Ka-ching! Oh, they wrote me a 3-page document. There you go, there's $30,000 invoice. You've got 28 days to pay it in sterling silver. Thank you very much. See what? I'm using their system against them.
What happens when they don't?
There's an interest rate that kicks in.
Thank you.
They get a reminder notice. They get an extended 14 days as a courtesy to pay. If they don't pay it then, they then get a default notice with a notice of further action. saying that a commercial lien is about to be instigated. Then when they do that, they get a notice of commercial lien. Once you have a commercial lien against you, guess what? You have to pay it. There's no way out of a commercial lien other than to pay it or to challenge it in front of a jury of 12. But they've passed on that opportunity because they haven't challenged it at all.
So when
They've been
someone
given
does a
numerous
search
times.
against them, will they find a
Yes.
commercial lien in a
Yes.
register that you've lodged somewhere that's going to put them in the
Yep.
ship when they go and get mortgages and stuff like that as well?
Absolutely.
I thought you weren't allowed to charge interest unless you're like a financial institution.
Sorry, it's my kingdom. I can charge interest if I want.
So that's your basis of charging the interest, though.
If they don't want to pay it, they can challenge the invoice. They've got
Yeah.
10 days to challenge that.
Yeah.
Including the invoice. Including the interest.
Because isn't our rebuttal when we get fines and interest and you know, that can't we go back and say, well, you're not actually allowed to fine me because of
You weren't in
You can.
agreement to the
I spoke to the ex-banker about that. Because there's a few people challenging some stuff at the local council up in another place, and they, he said you can, but prepared to waste a lot of time and a lot of money.
This is putting them on notice. If they don't challenge it, this is a self-executing contract. They agreed to by not agreeing. See, there's a legal maximum that says, he who does not deny admits. Remember we talked about that one earlier? It's really powerful. If you don't deny this invoice, you have admitted it. You've contracted by not contracting. Okay. So you've got these contracts which you serve on them all time. Notice of legal liability.
If anyone feels bad about doing it, they've already done that to you.
Absolutely. That's why I say we're just using their system against them. They just didn't think we would be smart enough to do that. And we're making them accountable. When they get the commercial lien on them, it doesn't even end if they die. Because you can then go into their estate. And you can take their superannuation, you can take their bank account, you can take all of those things. You can take, and here's the beauty of it. Once this commercial lien's in process, you go to their courts, to a probate judge, asking for a ruling. And you've got all the paperwork to prove it under their system. So the probate judge will grant it, and then you take it to the sheriff to enforce.
So you can't lose.
You can't
If you
lose.
follow the steps.
You can't lose. That's what the beauty of this is. They try to shrug it off by saying, oh, it's not a legal document. No, it's a lawful document. So that's how you do documents. You use their system against them. Don't fight it. You were talking about how do you stay in the system and not to, well, you stay outside of the system and you let the paper do the talking for you. Yeah. All right. Next questions.
I wanted to know about the insurance that you were talking about, the life insurance, and like, what about all the other insurance? You were saying
Super.
no, it was something
Life
about life
insurance.
insurance
Oh, life
and you know all the
All the rich
insurances.
use life insurance.
Yeah, and
Because
there's
what they can do is they can put their
income
money in and
protection
out,
and-
and they actually get paid a higher dividend out of it. So if you put it through a bank,
they invest it.
Yeah, so it's like investing. So it ends up as like an
So
investing.
I have life insurance, say, and I
You
pay
can go and get
whatever-
life insurance. You use it now. You don't use it after you're dead.
How do you do
Kids.
that?
Yeah.
How do you do that though? Because
I
like,
have
we
no idea. I've only just found out about it.
Let's look at this.
And that spun me out when I found out about it.
So we've been forced to have it because of a, well
they condition it for
because-
lending and
because
stuff.
of our mortgage,
Yeah.
you know, that we have and with the farming and stuff. They basically
condition
say
it, yeah.
you have to have
Because
it
they want to suck you dry.
in order to get this.
Yeah, but the truth is you don't have to. But if they're offering a service, they can put whatever terms they want.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is they're trying to get their hooks into you even more. Because what happens to the insurance money you pay? Do they keep it safely aside? What do they do with it? They invest it.
And they invested in their own system.
Yep. And if their system collapses, what's happened to your insurance
Bad
money?
luck.
Bad luck.
Yeah.
Which means you actually don't own the investment insurance money that
Well, look at the insurances they're doing now with all the rain. All the insurances are going up.
How can they do that?
Well,
Who signed the insurance policy?
Well, zero COVID, couldn't even get
Your
fiction.
straw man.
The fiction. And who owns the fiction?
They do.
They do. All they are doing is using you as a slave to play the stock market and bonds and all that sort
One
of
of my mates was telling me the other day, he got a notice for his insurance, and his car insurance had gone up $300. He said, why has the insurance gone up? Oh, because of the floods in Queensland. He said, but my car wasn't in the flood in Queensland.
Yeah.
He's, well, that's the way it is.
Well,
He said, well, that's fine. I'll go somewhere else then.
Yeah, this is the way they work. They just take people for granted and screw them.
So
and use
how
them
do
on
you
it.
use the life insurance you've been paying now, though?
Well, I know you.
What would I do in that circumstance if I happened to have life insurance and just found out that the whole thing was fraudulent? I'd be sending a letter to the insurance company demanding it all back, or taking them to court for fraud.
Because they're using your caps lock name instead of the living person.
Yeah, they created a fraudulent
living
contract.
Being. Yep.
Okay, by using the CAPS name, they created a fraudulent contract which voids the whole contract, which means any money that you've put into it, they have to give back to you.
Does anyone know?
That's because, but I mean, we prior to like this information that we're getting today, and some of us have had a bit of exposure to it leading up to this. We're basically, you know, I know it is they've defrauded us, but I mean, we haven't seen it that way. We've seen it as well.
Safety net.
That's just normal.
Stockholm syndrome. Think about that. Stockholm syndrome, where the victim actually protects their perpetrator.
So we'll give you another, just another example. We have to have, $20 million liability just to be contractors, just to be out on the road with machinery and all of that kind of stuff. It's just a stock standard thing. Most farmers would have it around here. And public liability, all of that kind of stuff. If a fire starts or a lightning strike starts on your farm and goes through, and then you end up burning out a whole district because it started, you've got to actually have that coverage.
Yep.
That's what we've been told. So how would you get out of that if something happened? Because I do know there was an incident up here that nearly sent someone off his tree, but there was an electrical fault happened on the farm, and it went through and burnt out half the district. It was about 15, 20 years ago. But there was an electrician who was doing some work prior to that, and so they've all pinned it back on him. So that basically just about...
Well, that sort of says it all, doesn't it? They're trying to pin it back on somebody they can blame.
That's what they do with everything.
Absolutely, because they don't want to pay out. So they want the blame to go back to the electrician, so they don't have to pay out on any insurance claim. Insurance is not set up for the people. This is what people have to get. It's a scam set up to draw all of your money. This is why they create wars and they send men off to war. Because they know that these men who've been paying insurance will get to a point where they're going to have to pay out on them. So they send them off to war so they get killed, because insurance policies don't pay out when people are killed in war. Because they have volunteered to go. Everything is run by, the big thing is superannuation and insurance. That's the big orchestration. Anybody watch the Today Show? If you watch television, you will find out who is behind what they're doing. There's so many ads about life insurance, so many ads about superannuation, funerals, all of these things. And they're not just a 30-second ad, there's the big info ones. Pharmaceutical companies, they're funding all of these stations. And if you look at the narrative of the hosts, they're reading from cue sheets.
The unfortunate thing is though, because you're within a system, right, and you've set yourself up and you're in a certain situation, then you're reliant on it, right? You can't afford not to have the insurance because your house burns down and you've got no house. And you've got a mortgage against that house, and therefore you
see how
get
they
the
trap
money
you
from
in?
the... So that's what I mean. You can't just... I guess what I'm cautioning is you can't just walk away and leave it all. You've got to untangle it first because you're in it already. And you're in it for
this is where the shift of
hundreds of
perspective.
thousands and millions of dollars. So don't just, up and walk away and say, oh, it's a scam, you can't have it. You've got to unwind it to make sure you're okay first. Sorry, this does not constitute financial advice in any way, shape or form.
No, but it's true. You've got to think, hang hang on, I've dug myself into this deep hole. How am I going to dig myself out of this?
One by one.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shift the focus through my affidavit to say every single document they've made is fraudulent. So I'm going to put it back on them. So it doesn't matter if I've got $1 million mortgage, a $10 million mortgage, it's fraudulent. I'm going to spin it back on them, and now they have to defend their position. That's how you do this. You don't worry about what the amount is and what all of that stuff is. You expose the fraud and you make them accountable. That takes the pressure off you in that respect.
So what you're saying, we should get $1 million loan first?
Yeah,
I'm not going to suggest you do that, but I do know somebody who took a loan for $1 million knowing that it was fraudulent for an over $1 million house. He then charged the bank with the fraud, and rather than have the fraud exposed, the bank waived it all and waived all his costs, and he got his house for nothing.
Every week I'm hearing testimonies of people getting out of their debt just because of that reason.
But isn't that
The bank will not want the matter to go to court because they know that the judge doesn't want to make a ruling on it, because if they do that, they set a precedent, and the judge will actually say to the bank, you need to settle this out of court.
But in your heart, I'm answerable to my Father in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And if I know that I'm doing the wrong thing to get something.
Yeah, but they screwed you to start with.
No. Yeah.
Now you're talking about the guy who used it to his advantage. Well, that's different. I wouldn't do that either.
Because
I
I couldn't do that.
No.
And
But I think he'd been burnt several other times by the bank, and so it was get back time for him. It was vengeance, type situation.
Yeah, but bear in mind
I know.
also, the bank didn't lose any money because there was no money
No
in
money.
the first place. There was no gold in a suitcase being delivered. It was ones and zeros on a computer.
Yeah, I'm not telling you what you should and shouldn't do. I'm just giving you examples of what has been done and the power of it. The power of it.
But isn't that money coming from your birth certificate? Anyway, trust anyway, the bank's getting drawing from that, then creating this fiction for you to pay back what you already owned in the first place. So that property belongs to you anyway.
Well, this is the point. If you've been made the beneficiary of the beneficiary, whether the trust account has been declared dead or not declared dead, the reason why you don't get access to it now is because you're dead. It's like a will. And you can't get it until the trust account has died and it goes to the beneficiary. Well, if the beneficiary doesn't exist or is dead, they call it lost at sea. Now, if you're lost at sea, you can't receive that benefit. So they just keep controlling it. This is the way they work the scam. But once you put your affidavit in, you've said, oh, guess what? I landed on an island and I'm alive. So guess what? And then they go, oh, shit, because now you're live, you are a proper benefactor.
So we can then claim it.
Can you claim all that back?
What you can do is you can authorise payments out of it.
So they won't give you a lump sum, but they'll...
Well, it's not your money to take. That's what you have to realise. You as the beneficiary and you as the trust account are not the same entity. They own the trust account, they just made you the beneficiary of it. So because you're the beneficiary, you can authorise payments out of it because you're the sole beneficiary and they're the trustee. But you can't access that, number one, until you're alive or until the trust is dissolved.
So if you had a $20,000 or $50,000 car or whatever, and then you worked all this out later on down the track, and you're just paying your payments off, and say you've got 30 grand left because you've been paying whatever, so much per year. So you could, if you do your affidavit of all of that, you could send the last part of the invoice to ARCS to be paid out of that
Yeah,
trust
or you
account.
can send regular payment invoices to the Registrar General to pay.
Have they been doing
Has
that?
that happened?
Yeah.
And have they
It
paid?
happens, yeah. It happens. You've just got to...
We heard that one,
You've got to put the trustee, who is the Registrar General, on notice that if he doesn't pay it, he's under misfeasance of public office, which is serious offence. Once you've notified him of misfeasance, if he doesn't pay it, he's now under malfeasance, which is even serious, like 15 years in jail. And you put them on notice, and when the creditors keep coming to you for the payment, you say, there you go, I've given you copies. I've authorised the Registrar General. You ought to talk to the Registrar General about the payment of this. You create all sorts of hassles for them. The Registrar General then gets, with the malfeasance of office, it's also sent to the Attorney General and to the Ombudsman, and they have to investigate it. So what you're doing is you're flipping their whole system on them. Because if the Attorney General doesn't act on it, and the Registrar and the Ombudsman don't act, they're complicit in the malfeasance.
The Attorney General, though, I mean, so the Attorney General was always, when we all thought, well, the Commonwealth, was always, you know, that was the representative of the Queen or whatever. So
No,
the Attorney General now
General.
is...
You're talking about the Governor General.
Yeah, sorry, the Governor General.
With hiding.
Yeah,
He's sitting unlawful.
Yeah. But the Attorney General's office, aren't they still a part of...
They are an employee of a corporate fiction.
Yes, right, yeah, so they're
That is
so they
employed
are
to
corporate.
offer administration, yes.
So the Governor General we've got at the moment then is corporate as well, though.
They're all corporate. They're all corporate. They all go back to the Crown Corporation in London. Even Queen Elizabeth and Charlie and all that, they're employed by the Crown Corporation. Who owns the Crown Corporation in London? The Vatican. Okay, the Crown Corporation in London, Washington DC, and they're all part, and they're all owned by the Vatican. They just operate different departments. One looks after the financial money of the world. One looks after the war aspects of the world.
DC is war, isn't it? And
Yeah.
City of London is
It's corporate finance. Yeah,
Is all
banking.
that going to end if things carry on in the next 6 months?
My belief is it's already ended. It's already collapsed.
Yeah.
And they are just waiting for the right time. Like the quantum banking system is already up in place and running.
Yeah.
And you had military law up there earlier, martial law, sorry. But the way the martial law was up there earlier sort of doesn't run with the way I think martial law is happening in the US at the moment.
No. No, you're exactly right. It's not the way you think it is.
It's very
Because
quiet.
you've got an idea of what you think martial law is, and you're looking at the states and you're going, okay, this is the way it's applying there. It's applying here, but not to the extent it's because it doesn't have to, because the people here are sheep and back down, so they don't have to do the things that they're doing in America.
But also the states are in devolution at the moment.
Yeah. It's different. It's every country is different. Okay? It doesn't mean that martial law doesn't operate. The difference with the US is that they did treaties with the native Indians. They screwed them, but they did treaties with them. And then you've got the whole fraud between the British and the American and the Constitution, all that sort of stuff. Here in Australia it's different because they just turned up and they ignored the natural people and just claimed the land, which was completely unlawful from the beginning. And they're perpetuating it as an invading force. So there are different circumstances, and there are people out there who say, but in Canada, you know, they did this, and they've set up assemblies, common law assemblies in Canada. And I said, yeah, but you can't do that in Australia. And there's a guy who runs called Mike Holt. And he says, we can do whatever we want. I said, Mike, in Australia, if you call yourself an assembly, you come under terrorist legislation. Why would you call yourself a common law assembly and put people in the firing line when you can call yourself a common law association? Because we can do whatever we want. There's consequences. Setting up something in Canada doesn't mean you can do exactly the same thing here.
It's all language.
So
language.
The governments here in recent times, I mean, there's been this big push through the school system and everything else of thanking the traditional owners. And everything we do these days, I mean, even the kids doing their school exams are encouraged to put it on their exam papers or get points knocked off them. They're actually digging themselves a hole deeper with the Indigenous people.
See, they're trapping them. See, they set them up by saying, we're acknowledging all of the traditional owners and we're doing this. Now we're going to give you a voice in Parliament.
And they're going to use the Republic.
And they're going to silence them, because what they're going to do, for you to have a voice in Parliament, you have to acknowledge Parliament, which means you can't take any action against it. native title. Do you think native title is a good thing?
No.
Remember we talked about title before? Whenever you give a title, it's subservience. So any First Nation group that has accepted native title has literally given away their rights to the government.
Well, there's heaps of those.
There is. But there are elders within those groups who are challenging all of that now.
Well, Ben and I went to Canberra a while ago, and we were talking to one of the guys up there, and he reckons that the government is trying to get, not elders, but the ones below the elders, putting their hands in and getting cash, and trying to get them in there through the back door.
Absolutely.
They're trying every avenue they can to get them.
Yeah, they know that.
Because they know as soon as they get them, that's it.
Yeah. If they get control, they get control of this land.
They took buses, like up north, like we're hearing horrendous stuff, they took buses into, like, you know, the different communities and rounded them up and took them off their land for, I think, a couple of days to go and get them all jabbed and everything. But because they were the elders and that were taken off the land, then they said the mining magnates and things like that, because the traditional elders were off their land, then they come in and then they filed for all the mining rights.
Are they ethical?
No.
No. Do they care about people?
No. It's a fees thing, because a gentleman here pointed out something that I knew about. You said you had to have life insurance for what the bank's trying to do.
Yes.
And during COVID, none of the life insurance policy they were not offering life insurance. Has that actually changed?
Well, it's actually null and void now. If you've been, if you've been jabbed, your life insurance policy is null and void. So if you look at some of them, look at the fine print, they've knocked it off.
Yes, it's deemed a suicide.
You signed up to a clinical trial.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's deemed suicide.
Yeah, it is. It's deemed a suicide.
Mate was telling me the other day, 2013, they did 200,000 people. They did a trial, and it was the vaccine. And there's 6 left.
Yeah.
And they're all trying to come out and tell everyone what's going on.
But the 6 left all have huge
problems.
problems.
Yep, they are stuffed. And all the rest of them are dead.
Yeah. I mean, there is, you probably all noticed, but there is no COVID. There is no virus.
I was hoping that maybe we get a clarification of a course of action, a plan of attack, what sort of steps can we implement after leaving here?
That's a good question. We're providing you an avenue, a resource to whatever questions, whatever you want to try and achieve. We're not telling you to do anything, but we're saying if you want to do it, we would recommend this process. Because we're not legal advisors, we're not lawyers, we just understand the way it works. So our first thing would be, if you don't have an affidavit, you have no standing in their system. So it doesn't matter what you do, if you stand in front of a court and you say, I'm the living man and I this, that and the other, they're going to totally ignore you because the court can't deal with the living man. So we have to educate you what documents you need to do in the court before you go in there and you say, I am the representative of the fiction and I am the living man, whatever. So it's the position as the representative that's important.
And by doing that, do you give anything up? Not that you value what you've got, but do you give anything up by completing an affidavit?
No, you don't.
It's just gaining something.
It's gaining. You get a huge power because now you have standing in their system.
You give up the dead you.
No, I don't want to give up. I don't want to give up the dead you. That's really important.
Well, that's a whole.
You just won't be a dead entity anymore.
I talked about it earlier.
Always dead.
If you want to go overseas, what you
It's basically
You have to establish your passenger. They were saying she doesn't want to give up the dead name. Isn't the affidavit actually taking ownership of that away from them? So you can still have it still in place.
No, you're not taking ownership of the trust account. You can't take ownership of the trust account. They created it. But you can take ownership of the copyright of the name. Okay. And I don't want to give up my trust account. My God, why would I want to, they put money into it on a regular basis. Why would I want to give it up? No, I want it to be working for me. They just didn't anticipate that would happen. Yeah.
This might be a little bit of a change of subject from the trust, but for example, if you were going to court for something and you want to supply your affidavit, obviously you're not using the original only copy that you have of that. So what would you do to certify a copy that it's going to be,
Okay, what you do is when you get your original done,
Yeah.
You make a whole string of copies of them, and you certify them yourself as
Yeah,
copies.
so you would say that it's a copy?
It's not. It's stamped. It's stamped as a copy.
Yeah. So you
Okay.
do all your stamps and what you did on, like, for
Yeah,
example.
you're author. So you're the notary of your court. So you can
Yeah.
say this is a copy of the original. You keep the original, and you send via registered mail out to all of these people the copy with a cover letter saying you have 28 days to challenge it. That includes the courts, the police, and all this. Okay.
I was just wondering if there's anything extra you had to put on it since it is a copy, but...
No, just the stamp that says it is a copy.
So you need to get a few stamps made up.
You just get your copy.
No, my stamp on mine is on my computer. I made up a stamp on the
On an actual
computer.
thing.
Yeah,
So
and
when
then
you print it out, it automatically done.
Then I put the paper through the thing,
Yeah.
I print out a copy of my affidavit, and then I take the front page and I put it through the printer, and I've got another program which just prints out the stamp, and it stamps it on as a copy.
So when you're sending these out, because like we travel, like I might drive in Queensland, New South Wales, big care, send it to police in all states.
Yep, and the courts in each state.
Courts in each state,
Yeah.
just send everything to everybody.
When in doubt, better to send too many than too few.
Right.
And we've got a list of all the people to send it to in each of the states. And what we've noticed is the Registrar Generals keep resigning, and they have to keep appointing new ones.
Because they don't want to be held accountable. Oh my God.
My next plan of attack after doing that would be wanting to lock down and secure my house, my property, my assets. So what would be your suggestion? How do I tackle that next?
Look, it's simple. You can do it at the same time you're doing your affidavit. You get from the website, from the manual, you can get a bill of sale land and a transfer of title land and a bill of sale vehicle and a transfer of title vehicle. You fill those out, you send a copy to the land office, you send a copy to the vehicle registration, and you file them with the court, and you create a private trust, which is not hard to do, and you just transfer the property into the private trust. You just list the properties in the private trust. It's actually really simple.
So they can't touch any of
Sorry,
them.
stamp duty. Who
Not
pays
in the
stamp duty?
private.
That's part of their system.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. What about stamp duty?
Even if your bill of sale's only $1 silver.
Yeah, your bill of sale's $1.
And stamp duty is their stamp duty.
It's their stamp duty. It only applies to the fiction anyway. And you've sold the property, the house, the $17 million mansion. You've sold for $1 silver, which is legal tender, whereas theirs is not. You've sold it for legal tender. It's a bill of sale. It's a standing legal document that cannot be challenged. So if they want to get sales tax, they have to have proof that they have authority, and then they're only going to get a percentage of what they sell.
Do you have to own the property outright to do that, or if you've got a mortgage over it?
See, this is the beauty. This is the beauty of it.
Yep.
If I sell you my house and I've got an outstanding loan of $400,000, do you have to pay the $400,000 that I have outstanding?
No.
No, that stays with me.
So
you own the
like in
property.
Ruth's case there, we want to have some integrity in what we're doing. Let's say we owe $1 million on something.
Yeah.
Do you pay that out over time, or just no?
What you do is you sell the property to your living man
Yep.
for $1. Now the property's owned by you, the living man. The bank has no claim over that.
Yep.
All they have a claim over is the outstanding loan that you made.
Yep.
Well, then you just happen to point out that that loan is fraudulent.
Right. So there's no way of honouring that system at all within that.
Well, it's not an honourable system.
Yeah.
That's the point.
So you're going to point out to them that it's not honourable.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to pay it at all.
Because their dishonesty in not telling you that
They've lent you something that doesn't exist.
voids the contract.
And pay for with something that doesn't exist.
Yep. Because money is, it's basically an IOU.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
there's
not
like-
sure
it's not worth the
even
paper
a dollar
it's written.
note
It's so
on the-
simple
on the-
that
on
you
the
think it can't be that simple, can it? It is that simple. You
Isn't
protect the
this
property.
when, okay, so that's all good and well and it sounds simple, but you hear the stories of people that start doing this and the next thing, middle of the night, police are knocking on their, like they draw attention to themselves and,
They don't do it what I would say is the proper way.
Yeah, right, okay.
And they bring down this stuff on because they don't have notices of legal liability in place. they don't make all of these people accountable for their actions, so that if you do anything before this is resolved, you're going to be held legally liable, because this matter is in dispute.
The old saying, dot your I's and cross your T's.
Yeah.
So another question would be, so if you go through that whole process and get all your mortgages and put it into the trust account and all that kind of stuff, then say you want to, okay, so we've got a growing family, they all, like expansion is all into the, you know, thinking, and, you know, we might need to purchase a new silo or a new this or that or something else. So you don't have all of that capital up front. So how would you then go into the process if, you know, you want to, you know, you just basically have to wait. Start the bank over, you've just got to wait and save and save and save, basically, for every, you know, little penny. Like a new header, like, not that we'd be going buy one, it's probably about 800,000. You could go at
1.2.
there you go.
You can go into a private contract with anyone to borrow funds from. It doesn't have to necessarily be the bank. There's other entities out there to do that. This is what I talk about in terms of don't put the cart before the horse. Don't start creating problems before you've resolved the ones you've got.
Doesn't your name then get put on?
Like the black.
You know, isn't there a blacklist between all the banks? You know, yeah.
Well, they're not going to lend. They're not going to go and fund you because you're just going to do it to them again.
Yeah.
You know it's a fraud.
They're all owned by the same people.
So the name that goes on is the trust account. They say there's problems with this trust account.
Okay. Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, the trust account is owned by the government, so they're still going to go into contracts because they're still going to get money from the trust account. So they think. Until you file a claim of fraud against them, when you think about it, if you file a claim of fraud against them, you're going to ask for every single dollar that you've given to the bank, plus what you would have lost in interest, plus punitive damages.
And for the last, for however many years you've been.
Let's say you've been on a 20-year thing. You're going to ask them for all of that. Okay? They're not going to want the matter to go to court, so they're going to write off the debt and settle out of court. Now, do you think that you could cope with what's that, $20 million if by the time you factored in? Do you think that you could plan things ahead with a
Yeah, we might be able to buy it.
You might be able to.
Get a bigger tractor.
That's the way you've got to start thinking.
Yeah,
Don't think, oh, but. Think, now, where's this process leading? What are the potentials? How would that free me up now that I'm not encumbered by the bank's lies? How would that free me up? Would I sleep better to start with?
Probably.
So do they hand it to you in cash or still over the computer through their banking system?
No, this is the beautiful thing.
How does that work?
It's what the terms you put on. All of my invoices are all in sterling silver. Because, well, you can do gold if you want, but sterling silver is going to go up percentage-wise more than gold.
More than gold.
Yeah. Yep. So I say, no, I want it in sterling silver to be delivered at this police station. So they have to put it on the desk at the police station at an agreed time.
Why a police station? Because the Reserve Bank is...
Why a police station?
Yeah.
Protection. You know, why do I have to? I don't have to hire private guards if there's bloody police sitting right there.
Yeah, and they're meant to serve us.
Yeah, and it's, the irony of it is, if it's actually some of the police who actually work there that have to come out and give it to me. So
have you ever done that?
What I've done. I've had more fun with the police than I can shake a stick at. One of the best ones I did was that there were some court orders that they wanted to deliver to me. I said, oh, I'll come around and I'll pick them up. So I got a copy of the birth certificate, and I film everything I do. So I walk in there, I put the birth certificate on the desk. I said, I understand you have some orders to serve on that person. Oh, just a minute. Looks, goes out, comes back with a wad of papers. Said, oh, you know, are you that person? And I said, no, but I'm just here because you want to serve them on that person, and that's the person. They don't know what's going on. So they start reading it, and I'm looking off into space. You know, and they said, now, do you understand that? I said, what are you talking about? I said, I'm not listening to you. I'm not that person. Then at the end of it, I say, are you satisfied that you have served the person on that document? They say, yes. Say, thank you very much. Did you hear what I said? Are you satisfied you've served the person on the document? Yes. Great. Fantastic. I know another guy I knew, they put out an arrest warrant for him. I said, give us your birth certificate. He gives it to, and I had someone else come in as well who was learning the ropes. Put that, I say, I understand you've got a warrant out for the arrest of this person. They look at, oh yeah, are you that person? No, that's the person right there. So that's the person. Where's your arrest warrant? I said, there you are. There's the name. There's the person. This is the entity that was created by the state. That's who your warrant's for. I'm surrendering that person to you.
Do I get a reward?
Guess what happened to the arrest warrant?
It was ripped up.
Disappeared.
Birth certificate's
That's good that jails have a following system.
So you just got to look. This is where experience comes in, but knowing is the start. The first time I got pulled over by the cops, I was like this, but I stuck to my script, and they walked away. No, they tried to take my car off me. Oh, well, we're giving you a notice to surrender it to the next police station. Anyway, the day came, I didn't surrender it. And they turned up at the door. And I've got this film that's up on the net if you want it. And I said, oh, you're trespassing on my property. Oh, you didn't turn up and surrender your vehicle. I said, what, are we at war? Have you declared war on me? Because that's what surrendering is. So, well, I'm not at war with you unless you've declared war on me. And by the way, you're still on public property. You're on my public property. And he kept going. I said, now you're committing willful trespass. Now, the next time the cops turn up the door, this is where it's funny. The older cop, who'd been to my place before, stands out on the footpath. Come onto the property. Lets the young constable come up, who doesn't know what he's doing. And I'm looking in the background, and he's laughing. He's actually laughing. The poor constable who's there. He knew, don't come on the property because you're going to get an invoice for trespass. You've got to have fun with it. It is a game, I know. In the early stage,
it's like cat and mouse.
It's cat and mouse, and it is a game, but you know more than they do. You know more than they do. That's what you have to understand.
So, we watched the Aussie Cossack from time to time. And, you know, we saw the film on him being arrested, you know, and blah, blah, blah. So, parallels, you know, what sort of, you know, he would have been in, he would have known a lot of his rights.
He knows a lot of stuff. There's some stuff that if he did know he could have used, which would have been a lot better, but he's very antagonistic to them.
I know that.
He plays it in games. He wants to push the buttons. He wants to push the buttons.
He wants to, yeah, but I was just sort of...
More entertainment.
But he's also out there to educate us.
Well, he
We're
is.
watching him.
Yes.
And so he did that time in jail for us to pay attention.
I believe so.
And it didn't stop him. He came out straight away.
Straight away. And they did it again.
Yeah.
And they haven't picked him up.
No, they haven't.
No, and it's, you know, you've got to take your hat off to people like that who are putting it on the line. They're not doing it for them. They're doing it for all of us.
I know, yeah.
So you learn from them and say, okay, what did he get right? What did he not get right? Yeah. See, I look at a lot of the stuff that he does and I go, if you'd done that, you could have really screwed them. Yeah. You really could have done this because he hasn't issued any notices of legal liability on them.
He used a lawyer, didn't he, in court as well? It's probably a mistake.
Yeah, yeah. So, but they're all learning as well. There's, you know, I don't claim to know everything. I just know what I know.
Yes.
It's other people who say to me, you know so much more than anybody else on what's going on here and you've got documents and all this stuff, you know, where did you learn it? I just look at them and I went, you just do. You learn it through doing it. Yeah. You're learning through do some research. You learn how to see through the holes in their documents. And you look at it and you go, see that? See that? Bang, bang, this is where all the holes are. This is where you flip it on them and to make them accountable. It's in the old days, you would find a master and you'd become the apprentice type situation. And a lot of this is like that. It's just that the master in this case is the group and the documents because everything is there as a shared resource. And we say, look, you are going to learn so much of this stuff so fast just by plugging into this resource. Whether you want to do anything or not, that's up to you. We're not telling you have to. You can stay in the old system for half of it or do whatever, because it's your life. No one's holding a gun to your head and saying, you've got to do anything I suggest. But what's going to change if you don't?
Who wants to be in the old system?
Yeah. And when you guys found out some of the stuff that I said earlier today, you got angry. Oh my God, I can't believe they lied to you. I can't believe this is going on.
That's
Hello.
the thing. I can't believe I've got 50 years old. I'm only just learning this.
Yeah.
Just.
Where is he?
So that half of this 10 years ago, I'd have saved a lot of trouble.
I tell you
Yeah.
what, we'd be still
Absolutely,
having
but
family calls.
it's happening when it's meant to happen.
Yeah.
It's happening now. You guys are seeing and hearing all of this stuff now for a reason. Because tomorrow, you're not going to react the same way you would have as if you would have this morning.
Yeah.
You're going to start questioning everything. You go, whoa, wait a minute. What's going on here? I've been pulled over by the police. They want me to do this. What do I got a choice to do here? I can just cave in and do what they tell me and then go it away. But I'm the one that's in control. That's why you have to understand, when the police pull you over, you are in the one that's in control because you know more than them. That's why you never answer any of their questions. Absolutely.
So
what you can say
in this new, like the whole thing you're thinking, what if like all the coppers, if they like understand it, they wouldn't really want to be a copper. So what if there is no
Absolutely. Do you know how much?
So what if happens? There's no coppers.
No.
So
What's happening is there's a change happening in the police force. A lot of the old coppers are getting out because they don't want to be part of this bullshit. They've seen people being abused, attacked, and they said, this is not what I got in for, and they're getting out. They've got such a shortage of cops at the moment, and they're trying to bring almost anyone in to be a copper.
And that's the wrong
Especially what they did to all the people protesting in Melbourne.
Oh,
they were just nasty to them.
People, I've had cops say to me, oh yeah, but what if somebody robs you? You know, you want us there the first time. I said, yes, that's in your correct capacity. But not in your criminal capacity. I absolutely respect everything you do as a constable, but what you do as an officer is untenable. And you'll be held accountable. You won't be held accountable for acting as a constable, ever.
If we have people that haven't been here today, would it be best for them just instead of, because this is sort of partly new to me, but not completely new to me. So instead of me trying to even give any kind of recap, sending them straight to, say, the website or whatever, because people are interested, just they couldn't be here.
Well, look, we're recording everything.
Yeah.
And as soon as I've edited it, I'll put it up as a link on YouTube. And if you want to direct anyone to today,
Okay, good.
but I've got other talks that I've done as well. So when you go to there, you're going to find a whole lot of other resources you can direct people to, and then direct them to the People's Court and to the Thursday night Zoom and say, what have you got to lose? The other thing that I'd say to people who didn't make it today, I'd be saying to other people who didn't make it today, I would be saying, you missed something that you should have been at. I can't describe what you missed because there was too much. There was too much for me to absorb. There was too much for me to get my head around. But if I hadn't been there and I'd known that this had happened, I'd have protected myself. Because I found out about stuff that I'd never even heard of before, but explains all of the stuff that's going on now and how to get out of it. So just say to them, you know, you're going to be lucky because it was recorded.
Alex, have you heard anything about, or had anything to do with the facial recognition stuff?
What, in terms of what way?
Like, if it's coming, how do we get around it? What?
It's here.
It's here.
If you read the affidavit,
Wear a face mask.
if you read the affidavit, your DNA, including your image, is copyrighted. So anyone, $1 million if they breach it. So if you go into the supermarket and you see a camera on you, you say, have you been recording my image? Oh, they say, oh yes, we do that. You say, well, you don't have my permission, you've breached my copyright.
So you could go and sue Bunnings because that's what they do, facial recognition.
They do it at Woolies too, self-checkout. They've got the cameras.
All bank loans, all loans are done now with
But see, what they're doing is they're trying to trap everybody into that. That's why you need your affidavit to say, sorry, that's my copyrighted material. We even copyright your voice. Okay, your image, your voice, your DNA, everything.
But do you, by going into Bunnings or a store, are you not agreeing to their terms?
Does it say it outside?
I don't know. It could.
I don't think it does.
You know, they might hide it. I don't stop too long.
One in Walmart, and they've changed all the Walmarts that you can only go in, and there's only a certain spot you can go out, and when you try to go out the in, it sends off a siren.
Yeah.
Because they want you to go through all the facial recognition.
Here's the beauty of it. You go into Bunnings and they make some complaint and do whatever, and you say, well, sorry, prove I was there. They bring forward the video evidence and you say, oh, thank you very much. You've just proved to me that you've got my copyrighted material on there. There's $1 million. I'll pay you the $200 you want from me. You have to pay me the $1 million for breaching my copyright. It also goes down to police. If the police have your image, they've got 28 days to destroy it, to remove it from their files.
So in theory, you can actually sue Apple and Samsung and all of them because they're always recording and...
Oh yeah.
But you entered a contract with them.
Yeah, you did. You said I agree.
I'm going to get an old...
Not if you're not in a contract.
Go back to the bridge.
When you send your phone up, you've got to read certain things and no one ever reads that.
Just simulate.
But what it does is the affidavit gives you the bargaining edge.
Yep.
Because if they've created a contract, let's say you're with Telstra or whatever for your phone, and I can tell people this now, this is where I'm at with my energy company. And last year I got gas and I put my power with them, and I'm on solar power, so I feed into the grid. And last year they said that they were going to change the contracts and the fees next year. Okay. I said, no thank you. Don't agree to the change of the terms of the contract. You can't change a contract unless both parties agree to it. That's really simple. So they said, oh, we're going to change the fees. And everybody says, oh, that's what they do. You know, the fees are going up. I'll just wear it. Well, if you just wear it, if you don't challenge it,
you've agreed.
He who does not deny admits. So I said, no, I don't agree to that. And in actual fact, because they were talking about taking my solar. Originally, the solar was going to be 11 cents. I said, no, I don't accept that. I want 14. And so they agreed to 14. And then they came back to me and they said, oh, we've just talked to our distributor. We can't do 14 cents. I said, that's not my problem. We have a contract at 14 cents. You're going to have to wear the difference. And they realised they were screwed. So they were paying me 14 cents. So there comes along for this change of the energy stuff. Of course, I knew what was coming. And I said, oh, sorry, I can't pay your bill. It's not in the correct name. It has to be in the correct name or I can't pay it out of the account. So I sent them a note. The account to the bill must be in the name of the living man, quotes, Trevor John, comma, of the family Alexander. They changed the account to the capital lettered Mr. Trevor John. That's not me. It's not what I told them to change it to. So they've got a fraudulent contract. So then they started to send me the bills for the gas and everything. I said, no, sorry, that's not my contract. I'm not paying that contract. Well, you know, you have to because you agreed to the name change. I said, sorry, pull it out again. They read it to me. I said, so how did that get changed to the capital lettered entity? So to cut a long story short, the gas is still on. They gave up on trying to get me to pay it and they sent it to a debt collector. Now that means it's been paid. The debt collector purchased the debt. So the debt collectors are now contacting me and I said, oh, sorry, I don't have any contracts with your company. Never heard of you before. Oh, well, we act as, you know, Origin is our client. I said, well, good luck to you. You know, that's very nice. Do you ever think for a minute that they might have screwed you by selling you a debt that was in dispute? Did they tell you the matter was in dispute? No. Oh, I think you need to go back to them because the matter was in dispute and they can't sell the debt off while the matter's in dispute. Now, in terms of the power, I said, said to them last month, I said, no, you can't take any more direct debits out of my account. Oh, well, it might be a bit too late to do that, you know, because it has to be within the 3 days. I said, no, I'm telling you right now, you can't do it. This month comes around, there's the bill again. I said, excuse me, you were told to discontinue that. Oh, well, we might have forgotten to do it. I said, well, that's in dispute, and I actually told you that if you wanted to recontract, I'm selling you my solar power for 25 cents. And you keep taking my power, so you must have agreed to that. By taking my power, and I told you it's 25%, you've either stolen it, or you've agreed to 25 cents. There's no alternative. No. So you've got power. You've got the power to do this. And you trap them by changing everything into the living man, living woman name. And if they keep going, they're perpetuating the fraud.
Unbelievable.
Stay in the race.
But what a great time to be alive, eh?
Yeah.
You know, I hope that this actually galvanises you in this area to say, okay, we're not alone. Let's get a little group together. Let's talk to the people in Harvey Bay who've been doing this for 2 years. They started where we're started. Look where they're at now. They've created all the infrastructure to everybody. They can show us how to set up our own local council and how to take the land back from the council.